Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. And I am joined again today by Alan from Perplexing Ruins. We're back. Alan, how's it going?
Hey, good, man. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, happy New Year. I guess we can still say Happy New Year. It's the first time we've
Yeah,
gotten together
March is
in the new
good.
year,
Yeah,
2023. And I know we've spoken online a few times in the last few months, but just haven't gotten together over
yeah.
Zoom. So it's nice to see
Things
you.
happen.
Yep.
Yeah, likewise.
Well,
We're
great.
gonna
All right.
talk
So
games today, though, right?
what's that?
Gonna talk some games today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, man. If you stop paying attention for even just a little bit, it's like so much happens in the gaming community and the
Oh,
world.
dude,
That's
man.
crazy.
For a while there, I got really into like looking up indie and small board games on top of RPGs, like on Reddit and
Yeah.
whatever. And then I quit and came back like a week ago. I had some downtime, and I was like, oh wow, okay. I'm gonna either go broke or not know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a expensive to keep up both in terms of time and money.
Time, man, that's a commodity isn't discussed too much.
Yeah, people ask me sometimes, how do I, because I don't even think I'm very good at discovering stuff. I rely on other people, but people ask me, how do you find these little games, these little discoveries? And I said, well, remember, I'm spending 30 hours a week as part of my job at the Dungeon Dive is to just sit online and scroll through itch and
Yeah,
Reddit and BGG and look for stuff that sounds interesting. But
yeah.
even I don't think I have my thumb firmly on the pulse. I mean, there are people out there who discover stuff way before I do. And I'm like, and I rely on them. So I rely on a lot of people from the Dungeon Dive Facebook group. They'll post things like, hey, that looks cool. I'm going to check that out.
I think that's how it works though too, right? You kind of have a network,
Hmm.
and that's one of the things I love about Itch is the feed.
The
You know,
feed
I
is
open
great.
Itch and I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I missed this, or
Yep.
whatever. That helps a lot.
It really does help a lot. It's like the Bandcamp feed. That's pretty useful for me for looking for music.
Mhm.
And yeah, I like the itch feed a lot. But if you take off for a week,
Oh,
you'll have
it's
like
like
140 new things in there.
tell me about it. And then I'm like scrolling through, I'm like, not right now.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's also indicative of how the pulse of the creative scene right now. Board gaming is thriving, or tabletop is thriving.
Tabletop. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I've been kind of switching off to just calling everything tabletop. Not
Kind of
board
way it
games,
goes.
not RPGs, just kind of just going back to that kind of catch-all tabletop gaming, you know?
And you do a lot of fusion using
Yeah.
board games to do role playing, which
Yeah.
uh, I'm excited about that League of Dungeoneers for whenever that gets wider.
Yep. So yep, it's been on my table that was the game on my table for about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
So games don't normally stick around on my table for that long. Just I only have, the one small table to do everything. So I don't have the luxury of being able to keep something set up if I want to cover something else simultaneously.
right.
So I got a lot of, I spent a lot of time with League of Dungeoneers and did a lot of coverage for it. And yeah, it's really good. It has some issues with the rule book. It's unfortunate, and I did mention those in my review. And some people laser focused on those negative. It's crazy. I spent like 5 hours on this game, and 15 minutes of those 5 hours were incredibly positive. But the internet discourse is on that
Yeah,
15 minutes of negativity. And I'm like, guys, you're blowing this way out of proportion. I just had to mention it as an honest reviewer. Say, hey, you might have some issues because there are some issues with the rules. Just know this going in,
right.
but you're in for a good time. So
It's got a big price tag on it, and it's by a smaller person. It's
it's by
not,
one guy.
yeah, right.
One guy made this huge
Michael,
game,
right?
Michael. Yeah.
And it's got a big price tag, but holy crap, the amount in there, like the map alone, I just can't wait to play with the map.
Yeah. Yeah. The map is great.
But the cards and the standees, I'm like, whatever, get different rules then. Like,
Yeah. The rules
use
are fine. It's just there's just some unfortunately, what happened was there was a lot of development going over the last
Yeah,
year, and rules got updated in one place, but not
right.
in all the places. So it is what it is, but it's fun.
Yeah,
People are gonna love the game. I mean, it's
it looks amazing, and I really appreciate that because I usually like to wait for my stuff to come before I go review, but it's going to be a little bit still, and it's so big, and it looks freaking sweet. Almost like the tabletop role playing game to end all table. Like it's got so much in it, and
yeah. It
you
could
can
be
do full
somebody's game.
affliction, huh?
It could be somebody's like
Mega game.
the game that they play for years.
Because even folklore affliction, which it looks a lot like, you're going to buy like you have three expansions
Yeah.
to make it even work all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever. It looks cool. The videos were great.
Yep. What have you been spending your time with as far as games go, playing wise or reading wise?
So I got a lot of stuff. We talked, but briefly, my personal time has been very taxed lately, so it's been hard to sustain gaming. So what I've been getting into
Helm,
is
nice. Yep,
the
Jason
mid
Glover.
games. So just because they're quick and easy to do, and I haven't really wanted to learn a bunch of new rules, so I've been doing this, and it's perfect. Like I've got 15 to 30-minute windows right now, just the way my life is. So it's like, oh, I've been doing that, and I haven't played a ton of Doom Machine yet, but
I have not played that one.
And I love the potential of it because it's like a puzzle game. So you can just kind of sit and like, oh yeah, move dice around. And it's not an adventure game. You use dice to manipulate and just almost like Elder Signs.
Okay, yeah.
Like a little dice manipulation game. But in a tin, which I love. And then I've been working on my own stuff. So I've been doing Ward.
What is that?
My little game I wrote, Ward.
Okay, Ward. Yeah, right. Yep.
So I've just been working on that, and I redeveloped a little campaign notebook for it, and I'm currently working on the core rules. So I've been kind of testing it on little hex grids and stuff, playing around with, and then mostly just buying in preparation for when my window opens. And I'm just going to show a few that I'm really excited about, and then I'll let you kind of carry it away. I think you had mentioned a new city supplement.
Yes.
Have you seen this?
I have. Oh, I've seen it online, but I haven't checked it out. Is that
the guy who did Into the Weird and Wild?
That's Into the Weird and Wild. Yes. Okay.
So it's just as big and in depth for city.
Oh, that looks cool. That might be perfect.
I thought you might like that. I mean, it's hardcover.
Is that readily available to purchase?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Hardcover, 270 pages. Running a city, tons of stuff.
Good tables.
Quite a few tables, but also like little weird rules to do things and a big bestiary, NPCs.
Oh, wow. Okay. I might have to check that out.
Encounters. It's in depth, but it's also by Charlie Fergraves, who does the art, and it's just nice to look at.
Yes, we've talked about him before.
Yeah. So I thought you should know,
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
PDF, it might be kind of pricey in hardcover.
Yeah.
I don't. And then the other one I got really stoked on, and you might like this because you're a big Borg fan. I picked up Pirate Borg.
Mine's coming next week.
Dude, I thought I was over Borg from like a consuming perspective. Especially as a solo gamer, I have everything I need. But somebody posted this, and I checked it out, and I'm glad I got it.
Yeah, it looks great.
If you want an alternative to kind of the Borg world, this can just be played a little more conventionally.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's grim and it's still got weird creatures, but it's not quite apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are a ton of tables in here.
Sometimes I ignore the apocalyptic side of Borg.
You totally can.
Yeah.
You totally can. But it's a hard entry barrier for people.
Yeah.
I think they think it's going to be like you're at a black metal concert the whole time.
Right. So Pirate Borg doesn't have the world is ending, really? It's not focused on that?
It's not quite that.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
It's not quite, I mean, it's grim, and
Yeah.
think of like a Pirates of the Caribbean with
Well,
some more Borg.
yeah, that's what it reminded me of. Because one of my favorite fantasy movies of all time is the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie, At World's
Okay.
End. That movie is relentlessly weird for a major Hollywood movie.
You
Just,
could totally do that with
yeah.
this, you
Oh,
know,
cool.
like you
Awesome.
get really fucked up and trippy, or just play like Blackbeard. And it's got a lot of tables in it. It's almost like they included into Morkborg the Ferratory from Morkborg,
Okay.
that supplement
Yeah.
with all the. It's really good. The production's great. The art's good, but it came with the Dark Fort,
So that's Dark Fort in Pirate Dark Fort.
and I've been playing it. It's fun, dude. Like you're on a boat going from the ocean. You run into islands and krakens and zombies on a raft.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's not dungeon, which I love. It's actually, um, and you can like upgrade your ship and like upgrade your island. I actually think you'd love it as a
Yeah,
little mini game.
that sounds great.
It is. It's a simple combat though. There's not, you're up and running in 5 minutes. Little character sheet. I actually quite love it. It's perfect for my life right now. Um, and then the game, I splurged and bought the whole packet. Comes with a big, beautiful map. If you're into that.
I did not get the map, but I got the box of cards, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I'm a
So,
sucker for cards.
oh, I love cards. Cards are my favorite. Deborah and I from Geek Gamers will both agree that cards are our favorite, like, uh, tool system or tool delivery system, content delivery system is a deck of cards. It's just,
Totally, dude.
yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah.
128 well-made, nicely drawn cards. I'm jealous of this. I wish I had made something like this for Fallen.
Wait, you
You're
did?
gonna like the cards a lot, man. And I don't think you need the map
Okay,
necessarily.
but
But I do
you
recommend getting the little Dark Tides if you can even get a PDF
okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I remember my copy of Ferratory had Dark Fort
in it.
like in it. So I don't know. Does Pirate Board
I don't
come?
recall.
Okay,
I don't
I'll have to
recall.
check. I'll look for it. Yeah, thank
But
you.
anyway, it's just a lot of fun. I thought for my life right now, and I don't think you can see it, but I use my tablet to draw the hex map, and it's been perfect in the early morning. I ran into a kraken, zombies, merchants, a castle, a port. You can like upgrade crew. Anyway, I'm going on, but it's really cool.
Oh, that sounds so good.
And
I'm so glad you're excited for that.
I am. I didn't. I
So
wasn't gonna be, but I am. It's really cool.
I'm
And
playing a
then,
game. I'm playing a game of Pirate Borg next
oh,
Saturday with Paul from Stone Axe Tabletop Gaming. He's
awesome.
yeah, he's running a game on Skype, so I'm gonna play, and a couple of his friends are gonna play.
So
So
you're gonna try it out. I
try it
hope he
out. Yeah.
streams that or posts it because I actually really think Pirate Board is gonna catch on because it's so easy, like Mork Board, rules wise.
That's what I love about Mark Borg, man. It's
And you
just,
could probably intertwine them in a
yeah,
campaign. You know, take
that's
your ship to that fucked up island where
yep.
Mork Board is.
That's what
I
I'll
don't
be
know.
doing because yeah, I mean, I have not gotten over my consumption of Morkborg materials. I just got a stack of Morkborg stuff like this big in the last 3 weeks. So
Are you still doing the skirmish?
still doing the skirmish. I'm still loving that.
Ooh.
And I'm trying to get. I'm trying to talk to the designer. I forgot his name right now. KRD. If I can still get on the to buy a physical copy of the cyberpunk version that's coming out. My mind is completely blank, but there's a cyberpunk version of Forbidden Psalms coming out soon. So
Really?
yeah,
Like hackers going
kill
against them?
sample process. I think it's called kill sample process.
I
Yeah.
hadn't heard of that. It's
So
like hackers running around the board.
yeah. So hopefully I can get a physical copy of that still. But
That
yeah,
sounds super cool.
yeah. What else did you have?
I'll just show 3 more real quick and then we can move on. I got Notorious in the mail.
Yep,
Have you done that one?
I have it, but I haven't played it yet.
Me either, but it looks really
It's
cool.
a very, very well made book. I like the
Yeah.
spiral bound, and
Yep.
I like the color. The book's really nice. He did a
And I love
fantastic
the
job.
theme, like a campy Star Wars bounty hunter.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for Notorious. And then this came out by a guy named David Blandy. He did a solar punk solo game last year, Lone Eons.
Oh yeah, I have. Okay. Yep.
Oh, well, this is his new book, Ecco
Oh, cool.
Mofos. And it's same kind of setting, not solo specific, but the amount of tables in this, Daniel, are pretty bonkers. It's cool. And you can roll up for maps.
Oh, wow. That's
So
super
you can,
cool.
yeah, you like sit down, roll your die, and play a map. Done. So I'm excited about that one.
And what was that one
And
called again? Eco Mofos? Eco
yeah,
Mofos? Okay, yeah,
he's
that's cool.
crowdfunding on itch, and he's a really good dude. He's a fine artist. He like does installation art in Europe and stuff. Pretty amazing. Um, but for your money, this has a crap ton of tables. I like it. I think it's really cool. I had to get it printed at my local printer though. And I guess that's kind of it. I know you like cards. Did you see the new Kickstarter for these?
Yep. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I've got those two physicals. Yeah, and then they're looking at putting 4 decks up on print on
Yeah.
demand on drive through. Yeah.
By Philip Reed,
Yeah, I
who
love those cards so
seems
much.
to not never make stuff. That guy is
Yeah,
so
I know.
prolific.
Yeah, those cards are fantastic. Some of my most used tools are those
Yeah.
outdoor encounter
They're
cards.
fun. I love the art on
The
them.
art is
So
so good. Yeah,
so
it's
good.
just so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And that's kind of it. Unfortunately, I haven't been playing like a ton. I've been consuming more while I'm on like this weird halt period,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm excited. There's so much cool stuff coming out. And this year I'm also more determined to do more board gaming.
Hmm.
So probably the League of Dungeoneers when it
Yeah.
comes.
That'll definitely take up some of your time, I think.
I'm sure. That's kind of all I have. Just sharing goodies this time around.
Yeah, I've got a couple things to share.
Let's see what you have.
Of course, our mutual friend Alex T just recently released Godshard. I don't know how
Speaking,
he, I don't know how he did this and Sacrifice like at the same time.
don't know. So prolific.
But I've read through Godshard, and I do have a digital copy to give away to a patron, so I'm going to post that this week.
Cool.
Um, but Godshard might be that sweet spot for me,
Oh,
right
how
in
so?
right in between Sacrifice and Disciples of Bone and Shadow, where I thought Sacrifice was a little light on the actual material it gave the soloist to actually have adventures and play.
Hmm.
Whereas Disciples of Bone and Shadow, I thought was too much.
Hmm.
And this feels like right in the middle, where I think
Okay.
this is going to be a real sweet spot for people. I think this game is really going to hit for Alex. It's really interesting. It's got a lot of good tables, a lot of good things to roll up for exploration and hex crawling and going to different.
Okay.
And again, it's you're exploring islands. So I'm a huge nautical fantasy nerd. So
Okay.
this is right up my alley.
On Itch, he said it already hit one of the award tiers or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, it's been selling
So,
really good. So yeah, it's
I
a
slept on
fantastic book.
Godshard. I slept on it, but I don't know. You're making it sound really
Yeah,
juicy.
it's simple. I think we both have agreed that Disciples of Bone and Shadow is a little too much. It's easy to forget stuff. It's easy
Yeah.
to get lost in the book.
Yeah.
Whereas this is not. This is 122 pages. Everything's self-contained. So yeah, Godshard is great. A book I've been interested in for a long time, and the creator actually contacted me about a month and a half ago and said he would send me a copy, and that's Roguelands. I
Oh,
know Rogueland is kind of like this was one of the earlier games to come out with like
yep.
Into the Odd and Knave, and one of those early kind of foundational games for this kind of small RPG.
That's one of my all-time favorites that I still play a lot.
Yeah.
And one of my first reviews I wrote was on Rogueland.
Oh, is that still online? Is
It
that
might be
review
on my
still?
blog
You have to check that
site, my
out.
website,
Yeah.
but it's so good.
Yeah, it's really so I've had the PDF for a long time because I bought it after Deborah from Geek Gamers did her review, but I never really looked at it. I just bought it to have. But looking through the book, there's so much good
Yep.
information and it's laid out really nicely and
Yep.
it's presented really well and it seems like a really fun game to run. It for being such a slim volume, it has a lot of material packed
And
in the
the
pages.
solo tables, it's so solo friendly
Yeah.
because he has dungeon generation rooms in the back.
Yeah, and also some specific hexes that have
Yep.
legendary dungeons and stuff that you get to create. And yeah,
Yeah.
really neat book. So I'm
With
really
with the
looking forward to
hooks
that.
almost
Yeah,
like
adventure
built
hooks
in.
right in there. Yeah, totally.
That's a
And
great
then
book.
the last thing I have is three sci-fi things. So I think May on the Dungeon Dive is going to be devoted to science fiction because while fantasy gaming is my wheelhouse, I still do like some sci-fi gaming, but
Mhm.
I'm not plugged in to that side. So there's probably a lot of stuff that I don't know about. So I wanted to show three things that I will be covering in May. And then also, since this is going to be posted early, hopefully some people can give me some suggestions of things they'd like to see me check out, some smaller sci-fi games. So the creator, this recently came out, but the designer sent me a copy, and that is Aelemental Zine-o-Phobia. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh,
An eco fantasy conflict resolution RPG for 1 to 5 players, and it's all about solving conflicts non-violently and
awesome.
about exploring uh, kind of social ideas on alien worlds. And it sounds really cool. So I'm excited to crack into that. And then another thing that I've had for a long time on PDF, but I was having trouble printing the PDF that I was getting at drive-through. So the designer said he would send me a copy, and he did. And that is Space Aces, the new guidebook. Really super kind of into the odd, super rules light. Like the rules could probably be printed on a bookmark kind of game, but it has just a ton of tables for rolling up missions and aliens and planets and all kinds of critters.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like one of those gonzo kind of uh, stainless steel rat meets cowboy bebop style kind of space adventures. So looking forward to using this, and I'm hopefully we'll be using this and somehow with like some of the components from Zaya Legends of a Drift System, like moving through the hexes and stuff. And then a beefier book that I just picked up is Orbital Blues.
Yeah. Hmm.
And again, kind of a space western. I like
Yeah.
space westerns.
Kind of
And
Cowboy Bebop.
yep, Cowboy Bebop. And while this isn't exactly solo friendly, it seems to have the kind of rules that could facilitate solo play pretty easily. And it's really, really nice page design. And I love the design of the book. It's got a real cool kind of 70s vibe with some of the fonts. And
So
yeah, what's up?
that book you're holding is one of my biggest conflicted books in my whole collection
Oh, why's that?
because I want to love it so, so bad.
Yeah,
And I really respect the company who did it and the people who worked on it.
yeah.
And the graphic design is pretty much brilliant, almost too brilliant. When I flip through it, it almost feels like I'm flipping through a bunch of advertisements.
It does look like a bunch of advertisements. Yeah.
And my brain shuts off when I flip through it. Like I actually struggle. And this isn't a knock on that book. People shouldn't take it that way. The book's actually, a lot of people love the game. And it's well produced, it's beautiful. Just from a personal design perspective, my brain won't access the information.
That's interesting. I think
Like I,
that
I
happens though, right?
it does. I mean,
Yeah,
people said
yeah.
about Mork Borg too, and
Yep.
I don't struggle with Mork Borg, but Orbital Blues almost feels like I opened my mailbox and there's a stack of adverts, and my brain won't let me get to the mechanical part of it. I last a few pages and I close it.
Yeah.
I keep it because I think it's very beautiful and neatly done, but it's just one of those weird how we read things,
No,
you
I
know.
mean, yeah, like you said, people say that about Morkborg. I love reading all Morkborg stuff, but a lot of people it's like it looks like the artist vomited on the page. And yeah, you know what? It does. But
The guy who did the design for Orbital does like fake album cover art sometimes he's posted, and He's so good. He's actually, well, you see the book, he caught it all so well.
Yeah, who is the
Tiny
designer
Woodsman.
of that? Sleanley, Clark, and Cox. Let's see.
Yeah.
Lone Archivist. Soul Muppet Publishing. Writing, editing, art, Josh Clark.
Josh Clark.
Layouts.
By Tiny Woodsman.
Yeah, layout, also the Lone Archivist.
I mean, the team is stellar. They did
well, like the table of contents looks like a menu from an old diner.
Steak and Shake or something.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's brilliant. And that was just my side comment. People should totally, it's only 2d6. Like, it's real simple. Just the design got to me on that one. I'm still waiting to fall in love with it.
Hey, it could happen.
It could happen. Totally. I keep it.
There was a time before, and I actually made a video about this, where I was questioning whether or not I was going to be buying any more artistic RPG books. The ones that are art forward, because at that time I was not doing any solo role playing at all. Role playing was still a communal activity for me. And I had issues buying those really artistic books because as the one running the game, I was the only one ever actually seeing the book. So all of the art was just kind of superfluous because nobody else around the table had the book. So they couldn't look at all the designs and the maps and the weird art and creatures, and unless I was holding it up like a story, a story time.
Right.
So I was like, so why am I spending money on these really nice books that when I'm running a game, nobody else is enjoying that aspect? And so I kept them, the ones that I had bought, but I was like, I don't think I'm going to buy any more. And that was like pre-Mork Borg and kind of pre-Solitary Defilement. And then once I started getting more into solo role playing, then I also said, oh man, I'm so glad I kept all of these artistic RPG books, because now I have them.
They're written for me.
They're written for me now. It's like,
yeah, no, I agree.
Like I bought, and I've never run because I just didn't know how to use it in a table setting, but Veins of the Earth by Scrap Princess and Patrick Stewart. And that's like the most expensive thing I own now.
It's touted as the best, one of the top best books, so
that thing's like $500 on eBay now.
Well, collectible.
That thing, I guess they had a pretty big falling out with I don't want to get into internet drama, but but
that's not for us.
Yeah, but so now I'm glad and now I can enjoy them as a soloist, because I can enjoy the art, I can enjoy the layout, I can enjoy that.
So
that stuff.
On the flip side of that, I tweeted about this last week. I actually have that issue with buying modules because I'm only a solo player. But people put out these really great adventures, and they're hard to run for me.
Yes, I agree.
But there's so many good ones, and I'm always conflicted. Oh, I like this person, I want to support them, but it's just going to sit there, and I could read it to learn to become a better writer. But
you could read it to enjoy the fiction of the adventure as a work of fiction, right? Kind of.
But I also buy a lot of novels too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a knock. No, there's some great. I'm conflicted. Like, oh, do I spend $20 on this, or go to the bookstore and buy a book for $20?
Yeah.
I mean, that I can read. I always just am conflicted because I haven't come up with a great way to run modules for myself.
I have not either. Maybe some people can make some suggestions. That's a common question that I get asked a lot, and that I see asked on various solo RPG Facebook groups, or is how do I run modules? And I think we talked about this before. I've never run module, even with role-playing games. I never knew how to run a module. It was always easier for me to just make stuff up on the fly. The modules,
I think you
weird.
can dissect them in a way and come up with things to do. Chuck Hoplips, him. them or what we were talking about that,
Yeah.
like, oh, this will be banger if you come up with a supplement that can guide people well through this. But I don't know, sometimes it's not fun. I've tried a few times and I'm like, okay, my characters will roll, and if they don't see the trap, they're hit or what. But it just feels empty to me.
Yeah.
I think solo is just, it's good for discovery, and I don't know, it's a lot of money to spend when you don't get the full vibe out of it, I think.
Oh, totally. And hey, that's a really good segue. So speaking of money, speaking of conflicting consumerism, let's talk a little bit about Zine Quest.
Is there any other kind of consumerism?
Well, right, exactly, right. Is can is there such thing as ethical
I
consumption?
don't know.
No, we don't need to get political,
No.
but Zine Quest. Zine Quest started off, I think, with its foot in the right path, on the right direction, but it's become a little too much. And for those of you who don't know what Zine Quest is, I think Alan, you can probably describe it better than I. Or it's a month, right? Is it February?
From Kickstarter, it's
Yeah,
February.
yeah. So every February on Kickstarter, all kinds of content creators and artists and writers, they release their RPG zines, their gaming zines. Tons of creativity, tons of cool stuff gets made in February. And it started off as a way to highlight these. But since Zine Quest started, the abundance of material being made all the time has exponentially grown. And
Yeah.
now we're to the point where just hundreds and hundreds of things are being advertised, not advertised, just released via
Released.
Kickstarter in February. And it's got
And
to
you
the point
want
where
them all.
you want them all, but you can't keep up. And it's to the point where I don't know if it's useful anymore.
So, and there's also, I've heard the argument, they're not even like zines anymore. They're like fully produced journals and magazines, really nicely made. They're not like photocopied zines either, so their prices are a little higher. Um, it's really tough, man. I make my living selling products I make.
Yeah.
And I want to help other people make their living too.
Yeah.
But when you're hit with 42 books in a month and you have something like a surgery come up or whatever, a bill, okay, you're done. It's all in that month. Now you can usually buy that stuff later. And that goes into like FOMO, which you've done a whole show on once. I think you just roll with it. I usually pick out like 15 to 20 things. I save them on Kickstarter and then I whittle them down. Because ultimately the cost goes up. The hard part is when they don't all release together. So you might back like 5 things and then 3 days later, the thing comes out that costs 3 times what those do.
Yeah.
And that becomes a weird juggling game. It's like going to a music festival where there's like 7 stages or 4 stages.
And there's bands on each stage playing at the same times.
You got to pick who you really want to see, but you might not even hear them all that great anyway. And who knows? It's a lot like that. And I think it's just part of the creativity. Now, I won't pretend I've been in the scene forever, 3 years. So there are people who've been doing this way longer than me. And, I think you just got to roll with the changes, no gatekeeping, and everybody gets an equal opportunity to make their thing. There's also the Zemo, which is the smaller one, which is in April, which is run by Charlie Fergrave.
Okay.
And to get away from Kickstarter, they started their own.
And where is that on? Is that on Itch or something, or Crowd, or is that CrowdOx? Or
so they create a website. You'll have to do some Googling research, but they create a website where they consolidate them, and then each game will have a link to its various platforms. And that's hard too, because like, oh man, there's so much cool stuff coming out.
I almost wish they would do more of a communal effort where kind of like a humble bundle where You
Mm.
could say in Zine Quest, I'm going to give $200, and then you get to pick which zines of a group that you want for your
The
$200 or
problem is,
something.
man, some of these will raise 75,000, some will
And
raise
then,
4,000.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it's not fair to carry everyone on your back. And
Yeah. That's a
I
good point.
mean, that's a great idea. I love that. I don't know if logistically they could do it.
Maybe they could do a like a best of Zine Quest for the people who don't want to spend the time monitoring the whole month, right? Like
Maybe, yeah.
in 6 months, they could do, okay, we've collected the ones that sold the best, the ones that got, they could even do it just logistically. These 10 zines sold the best. So now we're releasing a bundle of the
Mhm.
best of 2023, or do an annual collection of zines
Mhm.
from Zine Quest might be kind of cool. Like the top 20 zines from Zine Quest 2023, all in a bigger book at the end of the year or something like that. That might be kind of a neat way to highlight.
Like an all stars.
Uh-huh, yeah. But yeah, it was so much, it's so many things every day. I follow a couple Facebook groups that do RPG zines, and every day there was just like 10 people advertising their zine, and so many of them looked cool, and so many of them I was interested in, but I don't have unlimited funds, and I kind of shut down this Zine Quest. I was like, okay, I can't even keep up, so I'm not going to bother. I've got a good printer at home now.
Yeah.
If 6 months down the road I can buy the PDF and make my own
Well, I
copy, you know?
posted something about that recently. Like I was going through my PDF library. I'm like, holy shit, I haven't even read a lot of this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I like to support people and things look great. And I like to buy games and whatever. I'm like, oh shit, I've got a problem because I've just got 15 more I'm looking at. And I don't know, there's a weird self morality and self ethics there, and a weird who cares, just buy it all. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't have time to play all that many, so I've begun to cherry pick quite a bit. Um,
As you're talking to creators like throughout the day on Twitter and Discord and stuff, are people still seeing a benefit to Zine Quest? Are
I would say
creators
yes.
okay, that's good.
Yeah,
So creators are still benefiting from the like rising tides raises all ships kind of attention on
I,
during that month.
I think so.
Okay,
I'm no
cool.
professional,
Yeah.
but it seems like there were a lot of healthy campaigns. Um, yes, and some of them made crazy amounts of money. Can't believe how much money is available in our world for games still. Kind of blows my mind. And I'm not even talking the board game Kickstarters. Like that's a whole nother
That's a whole
monster.
nother monster. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm
Um,
glad people are still benefiting from it. I guess I wish there was a better way to curate that information, to curate the release, because this might be a bigger issue, but Kickstarter is not very fun to browse. It's
no, but it's way better than GameFound.
Is it for browsing?
Oh,
I never
GameFound
browse on.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a huge problem with Kickstarter, but I'm browsing pretty limited. Mostly zines, RPGs. I back almost no, if ever, a board game
Yeah.
on there, or books or cards. But it can be tough. I do love that they let you save what you want. So you can just scroll through, click save, and then curate it later for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
GameFound didn't let you used to do that. I guess they've changed that, but like, you know how stupid it is to have to scroll through every time
Every
and refine?
To refine stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible. Um, I don't know. I think I've had some chats with friends about this, like sustainability and finances and moral ethics of all these printings and shipping and paper use and gas use. And I don't know what the answer is really. Like in the music industry, you can do MP3s, which cuts down on a lot of that resource use. and they can be more affordable then to people as well. But there's
then
something about
there's also issues with the energy used from streaming, which
right.
is
Yeah, which
but
I
yeah.
don't understand a lot, but from what I learned about the NFT debacle stuff, it's like you guys are burning whole forests just to
Yeah.
look at stupid pictures. Like
Yeah.
it's dumb. It's evil. So I guess I've decided to not think about it too much.
I think you can do what you can as far as ethical consumerism. I talk a little bit on the channel about limiting the amount of plastic I'm responsible
Yeah,
for. So I, don't like neoprene mats because of that, because I don't
right.
think they offer anything better than cardboard. I have a
Or a
couple that,
box this big for a deck of cards. Like,
yes,
why would you do
why?
this?
With a huge plastic insert. Like, yeah, that kind of stuff annoys me. And I wish more people thought about that a little more. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
that big of an issue in the grand scheme of things, because all of my games are being shipped on huge ocean polluting freight
Yeah.
liners. So I'm not on a high horse about it. I just like we all have
No.
to pick our little personal battles, right? About how we approach our hobbies and stuff.
And where I'm at in my work, almost everybody I support is on my level.
Mm-hmm.
Or, or even the big stars are relatively smaller people, right? Like they're bigger fish to fry, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah.
in terms of small game developers. I don't know about big board game production. I can only imagine what goes into some of the big box games and stuff. Um, I don't know, man. I think it's for me, it was like, okay, I'm not playing a lot of things I'm buying.
Mm-hmm.
Is that even good support? Or does the game need to be played to have life? You
Hmm.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice to put money in somebody's pocket, and I certainly love to get support from people too. But a game needs played to have life, right? Like that's what it's for. Otherwise, we're just like producing little tickets to pass around, So money gets exchanged, and that's why it's pretty important to me with Fallen, like to make it, put out a bunch of stuff for it, and then try and keep it alive. Like instead of making a new game every 4 weeks or 5 months or whatever, like
Or keep a tail. Like games used to have tails. I mean, the game right behind me, Runebound. Uh,
mhm.
Runebound Second Edition, Fantasy Flight put that out, and they kept that game alive for many years. Now games don't have tails, especially on Kickstarter. A
Yeah,
company will release a board game with all of its expansions at one time.
$250.
200, that's cheap now. We're looking at
Oh,
like a 400 for all in nowadays. And so you'll get the base game, you'll get all of the expansions all at one time. And then all of the talk ends as soon as that Kickstarter gets delivered for like
right.
90% of board games. Once everybody gets them, it's on to the next game. You talk
Yeah.
about it, and then you get everything. Whereas with something like Roombound or something with the way Fantasy Flight used to do things is trickle it out slowly, so people have a really long time to get into your game and enjoy it and create a community around it. And that's why there's so much great fan content for Runebound,
Hmm.
because people were able to spend many years of their lives playing these games and enjoying them and getting really into them and creating that long tail. And the tail gets chopped off so fast now, right?
I think it was Mike Kelly over at One Stop Co-op Shop. You watch those guys?
Yeah.
He talked about campaign games like Oathsworn
Oh, it's more.
was the big one this year.
Yep.
Looks amazing, but people are like, this will take me forever to play. But then people are still playing Gloomhaven
And
and
now
then
Gloomhaven
Frosthaven
too. Frosthaven. Yep.
and then let alone read a book or watch a movie or listen to a record. That's a lot of fight for your time.
Yeah.
But the production levels have gone sky high on these things, and bigger is better. And I don't know, maybe that's why I like zine culture
Hmm.
or, small book games, because, a lot of them can be intermingled to create this sort of organic tale that maybe they're not for that game, but you can use a lot of dungeons for many different games.
Right.
Or especially in D&D games, roll your D20 or your D6. Who cares? What world are we in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe for this guy, I really appreciate and respect Leo from Vaults of Vaarn. Have you heard
Okay.
of
Yeah.
that?
So I've seen that online, but I have no idea what it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
Vaults of Vaarn?
Mm-mm.
Dude, so good. So he put out a zine. It was one of the first reviews I wrote back in the day, and it was so cool. It's like a Mobius world,
Hmm.
kind of so post fantasy, dying Earth desert stuffs, I guess. So not typical fantasy, mutants and water and stuff like that. And they put out zine 2 to grow it a little. And then he did a third one, grew it some more, chock full of tables, man, like endless amount of tables. And then what does Leo do? He runs a blog on the meanwhile where he releases monsters you can use and stuff. And then his fourth book was a consolidation of the first 3 books.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's
Nice.
beautifully done.
Yeah. I'll have to check
Games
that out.
Omnivorous put it out.
Who is
Um,
that? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Games Omnivores.
I have the Island of Ix, I
Oh,
think.
that's a great book,
Yeah.
man. I
Yeah.
love that book.
Yeah. Very cute little,
It's so
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But Leo did this with Vaults of Vaarn, and he just like grew this world. And, and I'm not the only one saying this. He's got a lot of respect for how he did this and the world he created. But I just admire that. And he's got little adventures for it too. And it's like, you don't need a new game every 4 months.
Hmm.
Just create a tale. I haven't heard that phrase before, but like,
Yeah.
and that's my goal with Falling, eventually is to like build up something. So in 5 years, people are writing content for it or playing it still and falling in love with a game. And that's how people make content usually, because they start loving it, and like fan art, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, just, we kind of have mentioned this game so many times in this episode, but that's one of the reasons why Morkborg is thriving, is because people fell in love with that world,
yeah,
and the creators gave permission to everybody to take
do it.
do it, just make more stuff for our game. And
Yep.
that thing is for such a niche little weird game, that thing
Yeah,
is just thriving,
yeah.
and yeah.
And it's because it's different looking. The rules are simple, and it's their license is incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, why are we even arguing about Hasbro and the D&D license? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
look what's out there. Anyway, I like that idea of a tale. Like, I see your room bound. Like, grow a world that's fantastical, and
Yeah.
then here it is 10 years later, and somebody like you can even use parts to play a different game.
Exactly.
Or, you've talked about that on your show, like your library. I see there, like, okay, this is my gaming assets. You don't have to keep parts in boxes now. You can pull minis out, or boards, or card decks. I mean, I don't know, it might get messy. I don't know, but
It does. Sometimes I have to spend time like reorganizing things, putting
well,
components back where they go. So it's like, oh, I better put this dude back in that box, or else I'm going to forget where he came from.
we're not sounding like old men, are we, to your listeners?
Hey man, my audience is mostly old men, so
Okay.
unfortunately.
I mean, it's a thing I got to think about, though,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and as a developer myself, I try to see what I respect, and it's people who develop the worlds they've created.
So what
And
kind of let me this is we have a few minutes left. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but can you give a little bit of a do you have a roadmap for Fallen? Do you have stuff planned out, or are you further fleshing out
Mhm.
that world and stuff?
Well, the next big book, so I wanna work on Fallen after it's been out for a little bit and create a nicer edition of it.
Are you going to kind of do a like maybe?
Yeah, I'd like to put out a nice edition
Oh,
of
that would
it
be
with
awesome.
fixed typos, more content,
Mhm.
different, just more accessible. Things come up after a game's been out for a while, like, oh, this needs changed or this isn't clear. Like in that game, I get questions about incantations all the time. And
About how to mechanically
yeah.
use them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but then on top of that, I really want to create like a lore book.
Yeah.
I've talked about that. Like, that's the world, that's chock full of art and tables and can be a book that's mechanically interesting, but also visually inspiring to people. I don't know. Do you know Trophy Dark System?
No.
They just came out with a trilogy of books, and one of them is called Trophy Loom, and it's 150 pages hardcover of all tables, but related to their world.
Yeah.
And it's really cool, because it's so functional, but it's interesting and fun to go through. So that's roadmap for Fallen. Like, develop that. I'd love to develop a card game to go with it.
Yeah, weren't you working on a card game?
I was, and then my life happened.
Yeah.
But, I had this picture of like Rogue sitting at the tavern playing an 18 hand of, I don't know what yet, but like.
Also, is it kind of like a Gwent, like a
yes,
game,
yes.
a game that people play in your world that people can also play in our world?
Precisely.
Yeah. Okay.
Like a meta thing going on. And like, I love this idea of like handing out loot. The spinner hands out loot to their rogues. That's a card that they can use in their next game of to be determined.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing on my mind. And Jason Glover's a big inspiration for me because he's kind of like this card game master right now for solo games, and
especially small games.
Mm-hmm. So that's my big roadmap: a lore book, Fallen 2E, and then a card game. And,
very cool. Yeah, that is one place where Zine style games do falter is in the world building, and it's you don't have a lot of space, and a lot of times these games present more like tools to be used with other fleshed out worlds.
Yeah.
That's one. I've actually made some really good progress on my game.
Mm-hmm.
I have all of the rules are done, but now I'm at that point where, okay, how big is this going to be? Do I need to make a whole world? Do I need to reinvent the fantasy wheel? I don't think I do, because so many people already have all of these worlds that they already play in. So if I can just provide a new kind of tool set or system to play in those worlds. So I'm at that weird place where I don't know how much time, I don't know if I'm going to pull an Alex T and because he's always writing like really detailed worlds.
I bet Alex has novels tucked away.
Yeah. But so I don't know. I don't know which side I'm going to be on. That's kind of like at the crossroads that I'm at now.
It's hard, right? Because fantasy is the easy trope, right? We all know high fantasy, grim fantasy, Borg. Like, why rewrite it?
Yeah.
And that's part of what happened with Tome is I was like, okay, why am I even doing this? Like, people don't want that. People want adventures. People want worlds to go into.
So with Fallen, how did you approach the world design that's in Fallen right now, like as it exists now? How did you feel about where did you come up with like, okay, so this is giving the player just enough to connect dots? Like what was your thought process on that?
I think my ultimate goal when I started was I want to create a game that's not high fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't swords and spellcasters, because there's just so much, and I want to see what I could come up with. And I had some precedent there for movies and books I'd liked. I really liked like The Duelist and Barry Lyndon and some of that stuff. Brotherhood of the Wolf. And then I got going, and I was like, well, I play solo, so I want to make this game viable for solo people, but also group play. And then I think once you come up with your world, you need to populate it. So then you start writing tables to do that, right? And for me, I just started looking at like tropes of the Renaissance and later, like occultists, mathematicians, scientists. These things were all clashing at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And mine even goes up a little to the Romantic era, where they're Frankenstein animating and sort of stuff like that. And then it's very political heavy, so that played a lot into
Mhm.
it, between imperialism,
Classism
slavery,
and stuff. Yeah,
colonialism,
yeah.
monarchies, and revolutions. That all happened in like a 150-year period where that all went like this. I was like, that's rich. Like a lot can be done there. Now, I'll admit one of the things I struggle with the world building after that is if you go to Europe now, right, there's cobblestone streets and castles
Hmm.
from the medieval period still. So how do you write a 17th century adventure? All my adventures for Fallen could actually just be medieval adventures. They're just 300 years later in the timeline.
I see what you're saying. Right, right. Yeah.
That I've actually come up against with a struggle for writing because it's like Europe takes place, it's the same place, the
And
same stuff.
and without falling back on the steampunk crutch, right?
I'm not a fan. I've never
Yeah.
really loved steampunk.
But like your world of Fallen could very easily become steampunk. It's on
Totally.
that borderline. And I think you're trying to like not cross over into steampunk. So like you said, how do you find that like really narrow road of being this very specific kind of setting and era?
So, for example, dungeons, Dungeon 23 is going on. And I was like, oh, all right, mega dungeon for Fallen. And I'm like, wait, that feels weird. Because, like, when you're in a fantasy world, there's like these anonymous dungeons in a mountain with 52 rooms and you fight goblins. How's that work in 1710, though? How's that work in 1650? Like, a mega dungeon feels out of place now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
then I start thinking like, oh, are there like other planes or portals? And it's become a little tricky because you're not falling on just like the fantasy dungeon trope. There's a dragon at the end with gold. In my game, all the gold's been found
All the dungeons have already been pilfered. Like all of
by
the,
by the by the D&D 300 years before.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
do you do
Mhm.
that? And that's something. So Fallen's starting to become more and more. I call them disturbances.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be around pamphlets. Like the one I just released a few months ago was about an estate that's run by a vampire. So they're not dungeons as much as like, here's an estate, deal with this vampire. Go to this cellar and deal with this whatever. Go to the castle and deal with this one magician. But they're not going to be like big dungeon. I don't know. It's world building is a little tricky because you are threading the needle. That's why fantasy has an advantage. There's so much
Yep.
to pull. And I don't want to go into steampunk and like Bastion Land into the odd is like industrial revolution period,
Yeah.
which is so fascinating. Like Chris McDowell hit something with that. But you're right. I'm like in the middle. And
Yeah.
so if you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Thanks for
So
that.
real
Thanks for
quick
that good
about your
insight.
game. So if you're
Yeah.
writing rules for your game, like do you want to like put out a book for it
Yeah,
or
I'm going to release something that the game's called the Hall of Heroes.
okay?
Yeah, it's a solo game and it's kind of based around the idea of very simple RPG mechanism. Actually, I have you can see that's a character sheet there.
I like it.
So we have A, B, C, D, and E. Those are the attributes: athletics, brawn, concentration, determination, and endurance. And determination and endurance are both those are both currencies and stats, so you can spend. And as endurance goes down, your determination goes down. And when your determination reaches zero, that adventure is over. So the adventures have like kind of a time limit.
Oh, we were talking about that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
no death.
No
And
death. and you spend points of determination to overcome death. So if your character is dying, if they get hit in the head by a really powerful attack, you spend a point of determination to narrate why they didn't die. Something, they were able to do something to get out of that. And
Yeah.
After a few quests, I'm saying like after 10 adventures over a hero's life, that hero retires to the Hall of Heroes. And they have
Like Rogue Legacy.
like Rogue Legacy, yeah. And they have an impact on the world, and then you get to unlock certain bonuses depending on what hero retires.
That sounds awesome.
So,
Are you gonna gamify it like with more board components or?
no, I'm not. This is going to be something really simple that I can just put up on itch or drive through. I'm not doing a crowdfunding because I don't. I would probably want to die if I had to deal with a crowdfunding campaign. But no, I'm finally to the point where okay, I've been working on this for many years, and I would constantly design myself into corners. But I'm finally to a point now where I have all the rules written. Now I just need to think, okay, so what do I need now to give people so they can play the game? How much do I need to give where people
So
can?
we had talked about Rogueland, and you admired those like 6 starting locations.
Mm-hmm.
And, you draw from a big plethora and history of gaming. Like I would personally love the idea of like that, like 10 pages of them and tiered. So
of kind of like adventure hook location type
just
thing?
like in Rogueland, I think it's like a paragraph, a picture.
Yeah.
What if you had like tier A, B, C, D, and E, D8s each,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to accomplish. I mean, this gamifies it, but the more and more I talk to people, the more solo people seem to like that structure. Not do this roll and move, but accomplish this to allow you to move here, which is what the GM would be doing, kind of thing. And I love this idea of like having adventure sites and you just write and you have to do a tier A to get to B, but you might have 10
That
to
would
choose.
actually work really well because when your hero is about to retire or die, because your hero can die at the end of their life, they go on one final adventure, and that adventure is like what they've been working their whole life up to, right? So in my game, character death is meaningful because you when you set off on your last adventure, you pick, is your character going to die, or are they going to retire to a cabin out in the woods? Did they finally gain enough wealth to become the lord of a manor? So if you had those tiered adventure sites, you could have that last table be
Yeah.
those
So
final things. Yeah.
real quick, now we're spitballing. I like this part. What if you have like A tier and there's like 8 choices and you roll D8 and that's your first adventure?
Mhm.
I don't know hexes or what. I don't know exactly. But let's say your character does option 4 and they interact with it. And you put like a mark, we'll say a check for now. So your next character, if they happen to get into adventure 4, it does something. You get a bonus on mechanics because your
Because
predecessor
your
was there.
predecessor was there already. Yeah, that could be.
Something, I don't know, that's corny a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like that legacy component
Yeah,
could be built in then. I kind of love this.
yeah.
So, like if I were a solo player and flipped open a book and it just had not just like a D20 table like where we usually write, but like Rogueland structures it for you. You even get a picture, like
Yeah, for people who aren't aware, so the details in the adventuring section of Rogueland, he has these things called locales and dungeons.
yeah,
And so there's a really nice hex map in
yep,
Rogueland, and
yep,
there are detailed hexes that he has.
yep,
He has
yeah,
these
just like that,
really
like
cool,
microfiction.
yeah. And these are also very similar to one of my favorite things in Scarlet Heroes are Kevin Crawford's adventure tags,
Yeah,
where you can roll up a whole bunch of cool things that you can really just really quickly make an adventure from. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
So what that page you just showed, each of those functions almost like a card in a board game, a quest card in a dungeon
Quest card.
game. So a book of those, but you tier them. You can only unlock C if you accomplish
B, moving on.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know. You could be on something with that.
Yeah. But
the rules are just there to facilitate play, but you need something to like pull us in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think our last conversation on character death and different ways to handle that and handle narrating out of cliffhangers so you don't have to just, oh, I failed this roll. But that the last 2 months I really focused on getting that part right. And
okay.
And I love where it's at now. And now
awesome.
But it's almost like the rules now were the easy part and now comes the hard part.
It's true, man. It's just mechanics.
Yeah.
One last thought. One of the things that I struggle with is how does the PC get to location X? Mm-hmm. Is it hex crawl? Is it point crawl? Is it open world? Is it like Borg, which is just like D4 days? And then you get into encounter tables. So then what happens on the way? That's where it starts getting like
expansive and overwhelming.
Kind of.
Yeah. I love the point crawl system in Fallen. I was thinking of pilfering that.
Please do.
Because I love your point crawl system, and I like how you have 2 skills. You have your voyage journey.
Yeah.
I can't remember the names, but it's really cool. Like, okay, if I pass this skill test, I make it to the location. If I don't, there's a complication on the way. Or I
have to give credit to Sean Tompkin.
Was that inspired by Ironsworn?
I can't take full credit. I think I've done some things with my skills package where he just uses stats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To give it more narrative. But when I played that with Ironsworn, I was like, this is how you do it.
Okay, cool.
Trips and triggers. And I think that's where Sean was so brilliant with his design.
Yeah.
Is you don't need a bunch of pages. The dice say trip this. And then, he has charts, but it's so simple. And so, for Fallen, I did that. So thank you, but thank you, Sean.
Okay, hey, that's fine. Good lineage.
Yeah. And so maybe it could work for what you're trying to do. I love hexes, but I get tired when I actually use them. In theory, I love writing them, but playing, I kind of just don't want to mess with them. I think that's why Borg travel is fun. I like the Fallen travel, and the various skills in that game let you do different things.
The thing that's cool about Borg travel is, depending on the module you're working in, depending on whichever book you're working in, the land of Borg, it's constantly expanding and contracting. Like some adventures, the world is so expansive, thousands of miles, you'll never reach coast to coast. Some modules, some adventures, the world is really small and compact, and there's not. It's like you never have to worry about miles or kilometers or anything.
Well,
like
even
that,
in the core book, right? Because you roll for distance.
Yeah.
And how far things are.
It's like time. It's like more like time rather than distance. Yeah.
Which, if I recall, in one of your videos, you were using those loot cards.
For time. Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
Because I was using maps that weren't to any kind of scale. And so scale was kind of thrown out the window. So, okay, so what's the next best thing? It's time. And I think time's actually better than distance because there's more.
It's a resource.
It's a resource. And there's better increment that something can be 1 mile or 1 day, and a lot can happen in a day. A lot can't happen in a mile, right? So I don't know. There's just, it's just, I think time's more interesting than.
I think when you write your game, one of the things you'll be up against is old school gamers love tracking. Newer school gamers don't seem to care quite as much about it. And then there's like this weird mixed school where, you track torches in water or you don't, but you don't have encumbrance, but you might. And
yeah.
I've begun in my own throw. I throw almost all of it out.
That's
You know?
usage die. That's the key.
I have an hour and I want a fun story or adventure.
Yeah, yeah,
You know? I'm probably gonna have to bounce here,
yeah.
but
No, that's a good conclusion there. Thanks. That was fun. I like that last
I like the
bit.
game.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good.
game design corner.
That's right. So, all right, Alan. Well, thanks for taking the time. I'm sure people are going to enjoy this,
Take
and
care, everyone.
we'll get together in about another month or so.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Bye bye.